Hello, welcome back to my conspiracy theory intuition. I remain your favorite digital creator Hasike. The last decade has seen a dramatic rise in the number of planes in our skies. To some people, though, there's something a lot more sinister behind the streams of white cloud subdividing our aerial space than the obvious concerns about increased global warming and the widening of carbon footprints. Chemtrail is the name given to the white plume of cloud which can be seen following a jet plane through the sky. For a chemtrail to form, the plane must be flying above 33,000 feet, 10,000 meters, at which altitude the hot engine exhaust condenses into ice crystals to form a pencil-thin vapor trail that relatively quickly vanishes. Chemtrails, observers claim, are very evidently different. These appear much thicker and extend across the sky, often in crisscross patterns, grids or parallel lines. The trails do not dissipate quickly but persist, expanding slowly into feathers and mare's tails until they form wispy white veils or fake cirrus-type clouds that last for hours. The real question, though, is what's in those chemtrails that makes them behave so differently from the innocent contrail? The answer is that no one really knows for sure. Concerned activists say they cannot raise enough funds to hire a plane at short notice to fly up to high altitudes and capture some of the chemtrail vapor to conduct a proper analysis, nor do they believe they would be given flight clearance to do so. Some claim to have collected solid matter fallen from a chemtrail-filled sky which reputedly contains high bacterial numbers, but other samples have been mysteriously mislaid, or their existence has been denied following their arrival at official government laboratories. One amazed Californian says he noted no more than the usual amount of chemtrails over his property one morning, but this was followed several hours later by skeins of white, waxy material falling onto trees, pavements and so on, where it slowly dissolved. He collected some of the strange material and placed it in a sealed jar, but within 24 hours over half of it had disappeared. He sealed the jar more closely, but when he opened it some days later he said, overwhelmed by a noxious gas that stung his throat and burned his lips. Somehow he managed to preserve some of the material. Under the microscope it appeared fibrous and sticky, but it has remained unidentified. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, reportedly no longer accepts any such samples for testing even though its stated remit is to protect the American people from possible sources of contamination. Just what the purpose is behind chemtrails and, according to the theorists, other covert tinkering with the atmosphere is unclear, but the U.S. government, backed up by its shadowy masters, seems top of the list of perpetrators. In typical conspiracy mode, leading chemtrail researcher Clifford Carnicom maintains that the subject is a managed and controlled topic of discussion in the United States. It must be assumed now in this country that communication on this topic is monitored. The most probable constituent of the chemtrails would seem to be aluminium. Naturally, human health and the natural environment could be threatened by the dispersion of large quantities of aluminium, making it a rather heavy-handed solution. Conspiracy theorists claim that biological weapons are being used by supporters of the New World Order to reduce the global population. The American authors of the Educate Yourself website claim the U.S. government is under the control of the Illuminati, architects of the New World Order. This group's goal to reduce the world population from 6 billion to 4 billion by 2050 is openly stated, the authors say, in the Global 2000 report assembled by the Carter administration in the late 1970s. Obviously, genocide on this scale would require some exceptionally devious means, not just to reach enough of the population but to be carried out without anyone noticing. This method might also have to be more subtle than just poisoning whole populations. To which end, what better than to spray us all with a biohazardous pathogen which will slowly attack the immune systems of vulnerable groups such as the elderly, the young and the sick, particularly those already suffering such autoimmune disorders as AIDS, allowing them to succumb fatally to a barrage of influenza-type illnesses, which, as everybody knows, are notoriously difficult to contain or treat, there being so many different strains. Symptoms to look out for next time there's a jumbo jet in your area are hacking coughs, upper respiratory and intestinal distress, pneumonia, extreme fatigue, lethargy, dizziness, disorientation, headaches, aching joints and muscles, depression, loss of bladder control, nervous tics. Barium salt mixtures have been identified as carriers for a whole host of pathogens or chemicals which could contaminate the people living beneath the chemtrails, breaking down their immune systems and poisoning them slowly and undetectably. To support their argument, chemtrail researchers point to recent rises in the incidence of flu-type epidemics across the Western world, along with an increase in mystery illnesses, allergies and respiratory disorders. Other theorists, by contrast, suggest that chemtrails are being used not to kill people but to inoculate them secretly against the biological weapons that might be unleashed by enemy states, and that it is the reaction to this inoculation process which causes the flu-like symptoms. The fact that its supporters appear to be singing from different hymn sheets rather dents the credibility of the chemtrail theory. While one camp maintains chemtrails are intended to reduce world population by 85%, China is apparently exempt because it is viewed as such a perfect example of the New World Order in action that it is being groomed to replace the US as the next superpower. Other camps state, however, that bird flu is one of the organisms that has been spread by chemtrail. If so, that would seem to scupper the Chinese immunity theory, as bird flu was first identified there, not to mention the fact that, as holder of 20% of the global population, China would have to bear a stupendous death rate in order for the world's population as a whole to achieve that 85% reduction. Might there be only the Chinese left? Not much fun being a superpower with no one left to lord it over, is it? But this particular conspiracy theory is undermined by a much simpler flaw. It is a question not so much of what might be in the chemtrails but of how they are delivered in the first place. If as theorists claim these trails are dispensed by special units attached or hidden in the fuselage of both military and commercial jets, that would imply that every airline pilot and every maintenance crew member was party to the conspiracy, and that not one of all these people has let the secret slip out. Even claims that rogue chemicals are being added directly to jet fuel seem highly implausible. What pathogen could survive ignition in a jumbo jet engine? However reasoned and scientific the debunkers of the chemtrails theory may be, they will always have an uphill battle to convince the theorists themselves, because the theorists' worst nightmare has already come true. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to turn on the bell icon to be notified whenever I drop a new video. Till next time, bye.